Yes, Lord. He's bigger than the pain. He's bigger than all the challenges. Good morning, saints. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's broadcast. It's always a joy and a delight to be able to come your way. And I want to thank you all who are already signing on and with us on this broadcast this morning. I do hope that our switch from my regular Facebook to my Facebook page will not cut off a number of people. We had announced that beginning today, we're going to be using our Facebook page because the number of people who want to be friends have already been maxed out, and they wanted to create a latitude for more people to join. So we're using the Facebook page from today. Hopefully, a lot of more people will get used to it. Welcome to this series. Yesterday, we began on the series that we choose to title Post-Pandemic Strategies Thriving After a Crisis. Yesterday, we laid some very important introduction. I gave some very 5 salient points to introduce this series. The beauty about all of these is that you can always go back either on my Instagram page, on my Facebook page, and be able to listen to that of yesterday, because we don't have all the time. The time is so limited to be able to do a comprehensive review. But yesterday, beyond the introduction, which laid the foundation for the insights and the many things we're going to be sharing in the course of this week, we also began to look at the main thrust of the message, which is thriving. How do you thrive? And we started with the first point on the need to avoid panic. And under that, we enumerated 5 significant reasons why you cannot give in to panic, why you cannot allow the situation to dictate your response. You must become a master of the situation, and the first thing is to ensure that you do not panic. Number 2, as we continue today in trying to help us see how to thrive, how to flourish despite the challenges that have been, is the need to embrace reality. Number 2, embrace reality. You know, I've been a Christian for so long, and I do know that there are some excesses. There are some dimensions of response I've seen amongst Christians that do not help them to be able to achieve what they need to achieve, overcome what they need to overcome. And one of that is the tendency in the name of faith to incline towards denying reality. And the truth of the matter is that nobody can ever overcome a challenge that they deny. You don't want to deny reality. There is an intense challenge. There is a pandemic that has occasioned significant changes in practically every aspect of human living. You cannot be properly positioned and attuned, both physically and mentally, and even spiritually, when you don't embrace that reality. So the second thing you must learn to do is to ensure you do not deny the reality. You must embrace the reality. It is not a demonstration of faith to deny reality. Sometimes you ask a brother, are you ill? He said, no, it's my enemy that is ill. I don't understand that. If your enemy is ill, then I should be for your enemy, not praying for you. Okay, are you sick? Say, no, I'm not sick. I don't confess negative. Then we say, okay, those of you who are sick, come out for prayer, and you come out for prayer. It's a contradiction. Now listen, faith does not deny reality. Faith simply refuses to submit to an unpleasant or an unexpected reality. But you have to first admit it's a reality. Because whether you admit it or not, that reality is. And like has been said, A denial of a challenge is not a strategy. You know, the Japanese will say that hope is not a strategy. Hoping that the more you deny it, the less it becomes a reality is not a strategy for making things happen. In the scriptures, let me read a few scriptures for you, or tell you about some scriptures. In the book of Joshua, chapter 1 and verses 1 and 2, Moses had just died, and the Lord came to Joshua and said in Joshua chapter 1 and verse 2, and he said, Joshua, Moses, my servant, is dead. That was the first thing that God said to him. He said, Moses, my servant, is dead. You wonder why God had to speak that way. Was that meant to be an information to Joshua about what has happened? No, Joshua already knew. In fact, as at that time, they were mourning for 30 days. But here is what God was communicating to Joshua. Get used to the reality. The leader you know, the helper you know is no more. Wake up to the reality. Smell the coffee, as they would say. Moses is dead. He didn't end there. He says, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now, therefore, arise, go over this Jordan, thou and all these people, unto the land which I do give to them, even to the children of Israel. Moses is dead, Joshua, but you are still in the wilderness. You have not reached where you are going to. Not just that, there are a lot of people already looking forward to your leadership. So the earlier you wipe your tears, the earlier you start bewailing and bemoaning what is not, and accept what is, the better it is for you. That's what God was communicating. God was literally saying to Joshua, listen, there's a new reality. The new reality is that that mighty man called Moses is no more. Moses, my servant, is dead. Wake up to it. It's like a widow who wants to keep mourning and bewailing the loss of a husband. We understand the pain. We understand the tragic loss. But listen, all of your bewailing and mourning does not change your current reality. All you need to do is do what God said to Joshua. He said to Joshua, now. Stop sitting down prostrate, confused, lamenting. Say, now, therefore arise. That is to say, face the reality. That's how it is, men and brethren. You can never be able to survive after a crisis when you don't first confront the reality, understand and embrace the reality of that challenge. It's a leadership principle. You know, when you go study the book of Nehemiah, in Nehemiah chapter 2, let me talk about these scriptures and I give you all of the points that substantiate this. In the book of Nehemiah chapter 2, you know the account in chapter 1, Nehemiah has been told what's happening in the land of his father's sepulchre, Jerusalem. There was burnt down, broken down. Jerusalem was in disarray. He got some help and all of that, and he went straight to the city of Jerusalem. The first thing he did when he got there was to immediately survey the land. If you read Nehemiah chapter 2, beginning from verse 12 to verse 5, when he got there, the Bible says at night, he went to embrace the reality. He wanted to soak it in. He wanted to see the depth of the challenges. He has been told from reliable sources, but it's not the same thing as coming with bare-faced contact with the depth of decay, with the depth of despondency. Have you discovered that leaders, political, religious, social, corporate, who do not understand the challenges of people are never in a good position to properly help them? That is why the only way you can solve a matter, get out of a rut, get out of a crisis, is to first understand the depth, embrace the reality. Because when you don't, you will underperform. You will underplan. You will underachieve. You will not be able to empathize. You will not be able to connect. You will not be able to give what it takes until and unless you soak it in. That is why when it comes to leaders, the attitude and the approach of God has always been to cause people to experience the dimension or dimensions of the things the people they are meant to lead are experiencing. The more insulated you are from the reality of the people, the less successful you'll be in being able to solve their challenges. So how do you thrive after a crisis? You've got to understand that it's important for you to embrace the reality. When you do not, many things go wrong. I want to show you 5 things that substantiate the need for you to embrace reality. Number 1, what you embrace becomes less difficult. That's a principle of life. The moment you embrace a thing, it becomes less intimidating. It becomes less terrifying. So that is why whenever you want to train military people, you create a condition that looks like war for them. They take them into the depth of the water. They subject them to the most harsh condition, the harshest of conditions. Because the moment they face those reality, even though by simulation, when the physical wars come, they are ready to go. It's like we are home on this. So what it does is that when you face reality, it becomes less difficult. What you embrace becomes less difficult. You know, somebody sent me a question after yesterday's teaching and said, I agree we shouldn't panic. He said, but how do I ensure that I stop panicking? And I thought about the reasons why you shouldn't panic, but I didn't teach on how to stop panicking. Good question. And I said to him, he's a lady actually, said to her, by email, that the way to stop panicking is to remove your focus from all the negatives and put it on the positive. And you can only do that when you have first embraced the challenge. So, number 1 reason why you have to embrace the reality is because what you embrace becomes less difficult. All right? Number 2, as a principle, what you embrace develops for you the capacity to overcome. Or I put it this way: creativity, response, wisdom on how to resolve a matter arises when you come bare-faced with a challenge. Whether it's hunger or it's a business that need to come back to life. So what it does is that it engenders creativity. Or put another way, on the corollary, if you deny the reality, it will kill your creative ability to be able to solve the problem. We had a situation in Nigeria where the government did the right thing in asking for a lockdown. But apparently, they were not in the know. They were not abreast of the reality of the hunger and the poverty and the lack of the people. So the people almost went into an insurrection. They almost rioted. Because to my mind, there's a measure of insulation between the people and the government. Because if you knew that majority of your people live per day and they cannot survive more than 1 or 2 days without working and earning a daily living, you can ask them to shut down for 14 days without first making provision. So when they saw that, they now started making provision after the fact, not before asking people to shut down. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So their creativity to provide a solution was affected, was minimized by their not being able to understand the depth of the challenge or the reality. A third reason why we must embrace reality is that what you don't embrace, what you don't accept, what you don't understand, you can never overcome. You can't overcome it. You can't overcome it. Because the disconnect between you and the challenge will be so huge you will be lost as to what you need to do. So that is why in embracing challenge, you begin to develop not just the creativity, but the capacity and the mindset that tells you you can overcome this. Have you noticed that when you embrace a situation, light, illumination, insight begins to develop, even in you, helping you and positioning you on how to be able to overcome that particular challenge. That's the way it works. Number 4, another challenge in living in denial or refusing to embrace the situation is that it will cause people that should work with you, support you, fund you, agree with you. It will cause them to lose their confidence in you. You are going to lose the trust of people that matter when you refuse to embrace a challenge. You know, a beautiful example is given in the same account I spoke about earlier in the book of Nehemiah chapter 2 from verse 12 to 15. After Nehemiah had sufficiently surveyed the ruins of Jerusalem, seeing it eyeball to eyeball, in verse 17, he was now in a position to go and meet the elders, the leaders of the land, and tell them the depth of the challenge in order to occasion the appropriate buy-in. Nobody is going to follow you when you don't feel or empathize with their challenges. Your creditors, your business partners, your stakeholders, the staff, and all those who work with you, when you demonstrate your lack of insight, depth of understanding or appreciation of the issues they go through, you're going to lose them. They're not going to be able to run with you or work with you to the degree that they ought to work with you. And that is why you cannot afford not to understand it, because you communicate it in such a way that people say, he knows what we are feeling. He understands, and then they can do business with you. They can partner with you. They can run with you. They can go with you all the way. A 5th reason why you cannot but quickly embrace the reality is that if you don't do so, you're going to be wasting a lot of precious time. Time is money. Time is opportunity. Time is all kinds of openings. The earlier you embrace the reality, the more you discover that you are more galvanized, you are more propelled, you are more motivated to do something. It is when you don't know how serious, how urgent the matter is. So if there is a crisis, understand the depth of it. Understand what it's all about. Don't live in denial. Don't say, by the grace of God, it's not there. It's not going to affect me. That's not faith. Because when you do that, even the position you need to be in order to get the 3rd thing I want to talk about, you would have lost it. The 3rd thing we need to do in order to thrive after a crisis, as we begin to get into the practical aspect, is to learn to analyze and re-strategize. You've got to learn to analyze and re-strategize. It's one thing to embrace the challenge. It's a whole different thing altogether to be able to properly analyze what is happening. And I want to show you what you must do concerning the crisis in order to position you to re-strategize and begin to resoar again. To analyze means a number of things. A number of things, and I want to pinpoint them for you in the next few minutes. Number 1, how does this affect me? How does this affect me? If you are in business, for instance, am I going to be able to do business like before? To what extent does it affect me? For instance, we know clearly that the current pandemic affects different businesses differently. Those in the hospitality industry, those who are in a dimension of the entertainment industry, especially the contact sports, those who are in the airline industry, those who operate cruises, those who operate any kind of business that have to do with people coming together and was hit in these times. Meanwhile, on the corollary, There are people, this is the best of times for them. Best of times. They are just having a ball. And what are they? Those are people who operate in the healthcare industry. I mean, those who operate pharmaceutical industries, whether as dispensaries or as productions or whatever it is, anything healthcare related now is having a blast, is having a fun. What about those who operate in the ICT, information communication technology? Those people who operate Zoom, who operate Skype, and any other kind of platform through which people can now interact and interface online. It's a boom for them. So what is a bust for some is a boom for others. So we got to see them. You are in the real estate industry. How does it affect? What is the buying power of the people? You've got to analyze it. Okay, if the people don't have a buying power and we have a product, what are the cost implications to the organization for this product that we have kept? So a proper analysis starts with, how does it affect me? As an individual, how does it affect me? Because it is when you understand how it affects you that some of the strategic decisions we're going to be enumerating for you will now begin to make sense. Otherwise, you're going to live in a bubble. You're going to live in like building your castle in the air without understanding the reality. So you've got to analyze critically, how does this affect? The next thing you now want to ask is, what works now as part of your analysis? Okay, by reason of this crisis that I've just gone through, what is going to work and what is not going to work? Things are not going to work like before anymore. Those of us who are pastors and church leaders and ministry leaders understand that it is 100% impossible, that's the word, for ministry to return back to what it used to be. It can never be. A new dawn has just begun. And what is the new dawn? The reality of church without walls. How that you cannot begin to even make more impact even when you are not within a physical wall. So how do you then do that? How do you improve on your delivery? How do you reach more people? How do you ensure you still serve God and the people of God with excellence? It's a new dawn. So what works now and what doesn't work? What doesn't work? When I was talking about in the businesses that are in sync now, that are having a boom while others are having a bust, what about those who are into delivery? An organization like DHL, like Amazon, they are having the best of times. I mean, the other day Amazon started recruiting and offering higher than regular per hour pay because everywhere is exploding. People can't go out, so they are ordering online and they need people to deliver. That's another area where so much is happening. Men and brethren, what is working? What works now is that physical meetings are no longer working. Online meetings are working better. To what extent can that affect my business? Can we analyze it and do what we need to do in order to be able to stay afloat when the season is over? Another area of analysis that we need to spend time on is, what are the options that are now before me or before our organization? What are the options? If this is no longer working, for instance, we do a lot of inspection, physical inspection of properties, physical every day or multiple times. Now that is being affected because people are practicing social distance. Is there any other way we can do that? Of course, we can do virtual inspection. What else can we do? So what do we need to do now? We now need to invest in the technology that is going to ensure that we are able to make it look real to people. By showing them the surroundings and showing them what's available and creating online also how to answer questions that people want to ask if they were there physically. There is just a way to analyze. So it's important we sit down and put on our thinking caps and look very extensively. Check everything. Again, how is this affecting my family, my business, the church of Jesus? How is it affecting? What works now? What works now? What is now working that wasn't working before? All right? Then what used to work that doesn't work anymore? You can't flog a dead horse. Like I used to say, once the horse is dead, you announce a burial committee. If it's no longer working, let it go. What works now? We have to do that analysis. And in doing that analysis, we have to be very comprehensive. Of course, another dimension of analysis is we have to analyze what are the options available to us, number 4. Then number 5, after doing all of this, still come back and do what is called a SWOT analysis. What are the strengths we have? What are the weaknesses we have? What are the opportunities we have? What are the threats? And you know the way a SWOT analysis is done, very basic. You match your strength with your weakness, and you match your opportunities with your threats. By the time you cross-pollinate them and analyze them against one another, you will come out with a good picture of where you are. So, number 3 point I am making concerning how to be able to ensure you thrive after a crisis is that you must learn to analyze. Then I also said you must analyze and re-strategize. Under re-strategizing, let me mention a few things, and I'm going to wrap up in a moment because my time is up, and continue on this same point tomorrow morning. What do you re-strategize? There are a lot of things, and I'm going to get into the details, but listen, I want to give you a teaser. You've got to learn how to reset your priorities. I'll talk about that. You've got to learn how to right size. You've got to do some right sizing. I didn't say downsizing, but right sizing. Because for some people it's downsizing, for some other people it's upscaling. So the word is size. You've got to understand that it is time to review salary payment. You have to know what must be held and what must go. Review salaries. You have to understand how to renegotiate with your creditors. It's time to renegotiate. You've got to understand how to review and refine what you are doing. Because listen, my friend, no matter what the situation, you are destined to thrive. So the wisdom of thriving is necessary. Join me tomorrow morning as I continue, because I know that God has ordained for you to thrive, and thrive you must in Jesus' name. Thank you for listening today, and join me tomorrow. God bless you.